So there's this conflict brewing in the skies all over the world. It's one you might not think about until it's too late. I'm talking about the growing tension between our drones and the birds who, let's be honest, have always owned that airspace. If you've ever flown a drone, you've probably had that moment. You're lining up the perfect shot, and suddenly a hawk starts circling. Your heart starts to pound, and yeah, for good reason. But what if I told you the real risk isn't just about losing your drone? Because here's the thing. The moment your drone gets too close to wildlife, you're not just flying under aviation rules anymore. Suddenly, you've entered the world of conservation law, where just disturbing a protected species, even by accident, can land you in some serious legal trouble. So let's dive into this. We're going to talk about what it means to deal with this new kind of air traffic and really get into the legal and ethical stakes of flying anywhere near wildlife. Okay, so this is absolutely critical to understand. You can be a perfectly legal pilot under FAA rules, flying below 400 feet, everything by the book. But if you bother a protected bird while doing it, you could be breaking major federal laws like the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act. This is especially true in places like national wildlife refuges, where drones are often just flat out banned. It's a two-front challenge. You have to follow the aviation rules and the wildlife rules. Right, so why do birds get so worked up about drones? It's not just random, get off my lawn aggression. To really get it, we need to try and see and hear our drones from a bird's perspective. Well, it really boils down to two main things, what they hear and what they see. First, the noise. That high-pitched whine from the props, it's loud, often between 70 and 90 decibels. For a bird, that sound can literally drown out everything else. Calls from a mate, the sound of a predator sneaking up. Then there's the visual. A drone can look a lot like a predator. And when it makes sudden moves, like swooping or banking, well, that looks an awful lot like an attack, and it kicks in their natural fight or flight instinct. And that reaction, that stress, it starts with something called a disturbance. And this is a really important legal term. We're not just talking about a bird dramatically flying away. A disturbance can be as small as a bird on its nest just lifting its head, tensing its body, or looking around nervously. Even if it doesn't leave, that's a sign of stress, and that means a disturbance has already happened. Now, if you keep that disturbance up, or if you're doing it on purpose, it escalates to what's called harassment. This is where the disturbance actually causes real harm. A classic example? A drone that keeps buzzing a nest, forcing the parent birds to flee, which leaves their eggs or their chicks vulnerable. That's when you cross a very serious legal line. And then, of course, there's the absolute worst-case scenario, a strike, a collision, any physical contact at all. This is incredibly dangerous for everyone. The bird can be killed, obviously, but a raptor hitting one of your propellers can easily send your aircraft tumbling out of the sky. Okay, so the risks are pretty clear, right? So how do we actually avoid all this? Well, the good news is it all starts on the ground, long before you even think about taking off. It's all about being proactive, not reactive. To do that, we need to understand a really cool scientific concept called flight initiation distance, or FID. The easiest way to think about it is like a bird's personal space bubble. The FID is that exact point where an approaching threat, like your drone, gets too close and the bird's brain says, "Nope, I'm out of here," and it flees. This is the science that helps us set safe distances. So, what does that look like in practice? Well, as a general rule of thumb, a really good starting point is 100 meters. That's about 328 feet. Think of that as your absolute minimum distance for launching, landing, and flying near any wildlife you can see. But, and this is important, that's just the baseline. Because you just can't have a single one-size-fits-all rule here. Your safety buffer has to be dynamic. So while 100 meters might be okay for some general wildlife, that distance needs to go way up for something more sensitive, like a nesting bird. And for a highly territorial species like a nesting bald eagle, you need to be thinking more like 300 meters or even more. The situation dictates the distance. So what does this actually mean for your pre-flight checklist? A few key things. First, check the local ecological calendar. Is it nesting season? If it is, maybe just don't fly there. Second, try to schedule your flights for midday, when birds tend to be less active, instead of dawn or dusk when they're out hunting. And here's a huge one. Don't just rely on your drone app to tell you about restricted areas. Manually check the official maps for wildlife refuges or other protected zones. The apps don't always have that data. All right, so you've done all your homework on the ground. Now, let's talk about what happens when the drone is actually in the air.
This section is all about in-flight tactics and what to do in an emergency. First things first, in any area where you expect birds, a visual observer, or VO, isn't just a good idea. Honestly, it should be considered mandatory. Your drone's fancy obstacle avoidance system, it's great for trees and buildings. It's not designed to spot a peregrine falcon diving at over 100 miles an hour. A dedicated second set of human eyes on the sky is your absolute best defense. Okay, let's run this scenario. Picture this. You're flying. Your VO yells, "Eagle, 3 o'clock," and it's diving. It's coming in hot, right for your drone. What is your immediate gut reaction move? What do you do? Here's exactly what you do, and it's probably the most important in-flight tactic you can learn. Don't try to outrun it sideways. That bird is way more agile than you are. Instead, you immediately stop all forward, backward, or sideways movement, and you just go straight up. Ascend vertically, as fast as your drone can climb. See, raptors are incredible divers and pursuers, but they're not built for steep vertical climbs. You're basically using their own biology against them, and it's your best shot at getting away clean. Okay, so let's say the worst happens and an incident occurs. What now? Well, being a professional means having a clear reporting plan. If there's any physical contact, a strike, that's a big deal. It requires an official report to the FAA. But just as important, if you cause a really bad disturbance, say you flush an entire flock of nesting birds off a beach, that needs to be documented internally as a situational report. This isn't about getting punished. It's about learning, adapting your procedures, and making sure it never happens again. So when you put all of these pieces together, what do you get? It's really about a whole new mindset for drone pilots. It's about building a framework, a code of conduct, based on something called ecological risk management. The research for this explainer puts it perfectly. It says that the goal is to treat the legal and ethical avoidance of disturbance on par with physical collision avoidance. So what does that actually mean in plain English? It's simple. Avoiding bothering a bird needs to be just as high a priority in your mission plan as not crashing your drone into a building. They have to be treated as equally important risks. So really, this responsible operator's code boils down to 3 core pillars. Number 1, you have to do preemptive planning that respects the local ecology. Number 2, you use dynamic science-based safety buffers, not just one static number. And number 3, you layer your defenses using both technology and, crucially, procedures, like having that non-negotiable visual observer. And that really leaves us with a big question for the future. Drones aren't going away. They're only going to become more and more common for everything from package delivery to photography. The real challenge for all of us, the pilots, the engineers, the regulators, is to figure out how we design our technology and our rules to make sure we're not just invading their space, but truly and respectfully sharing the sky.